Hi, this is Doug Ward from Tech Britain. Today we're here with Ross from Recite. Thanks for your time, Ross.
No problem.
Just for our viewers, you just let them know a little bit about yourself and the company.
Right, well I'm dyslexic, and I found out I was dyslexic 8 years ago after university, and I'd love to say I wasn't disappointed, but I was, because if I found out at university I could have gotten extra time in exams, I could have gotten a free computer, but that's by the by. But one thing I did get is that I got software to install on a computer that would read a website out loud, and that was life-changing for me at the time, purely because of the fact that I'm a very inquisitive guy and I like to learn things, but I hate reading, so I just never read. And to be able to go on the internet with this vast amount of information and all of a sudden absorb it by it being verbalized and spoken to me was fantastic. And then I went to another computer which was at work, and I was back to square one because it was installed on that computer. And that's when I realized that for people like me being dyslexic, it simply just didn't work. I mean, you know, if you were short-sighted, they wouldn't give you glasses where you'd only use in one place.
Sure.
So that's where we've created Recite, which is an online system that allows any computer in the world, any device in the world, no matter what software, to access any website in the world, but through a way that is specialised for that individual. So it could be reading the website out loud. Also, if I have a yellow background and blue text, I'll read twice as fast. So it basically allows the user to kind of access any content online from any device, giving the person like myself the freedom.
It's fantastic. And the idea came from just your past experiences going through that kind of challenge.
Yeah, it was just my personal frustrations. The current technology as it sat was just computer based, and generally on the one computer. And 10 years ago that might have worked when every computer was Windows and people only had one device that they were accessing the internet. But now, I mean, even round the table at my computer, I've got one Windows PC, I've got one Android device, and I've got one iPad. So I have 3 separate devices. Our system works across all of them, just allows you to access the info.
Fantastic.
In an accessible format.
Brilliant. We were just saying off camera, we were at the EIE in Edinburgh last week, and we've seen Sir Jackie Stewart give a great talk on dyslexia. For people in the tech community, I think it was important for you to let them know like the real strengths of people being dyslexic coming into the tech community. Yeah,
I mean, it's something I'm actually very, very passionate about, is the fact that as soon as you mention dyslexic, everybody associates the weaknesses, which is generally you can't read as fast, you can't write as fast, you will normally make mistakes if you are typing out an email, and for a lot of other stuff like sequencing tends to be late, number sequencing, it's quite individual per person, but also it does come with massive advantages. One of the advantages is they tend to be more creative. A person tends to be more analytical and they tend to think out the box. The visual memory tends to be much, much better, so they'll remember things what they see. And also as well, dyslexics are often described as the elephant in the family, that if there was a conversation that happened 8 years ago and somebody wants to know about it, it's generally that person that's dyslexic that will remember it, because they tend to remember conversations very well. But if you turn that into a business concept, as how much of an advantage is that? If you had a board meeting and you had to figure out what was said and what was done 6 years ago, how good would it be to have a guy sitting on the board that mightn't be able to write as well, mightn't be able to read as well, but will remember the conversation, be analytical about it, of why you'd done it and when you did it and what was the reasons for it. But it's spotting that a dyslexic person would have that advantage in trying to recruit them. That's what I think we need to try and change.
And the creativity side of things has got to be a real plus for the tech community. Surely the more creative people that we get in the industry, the better.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I have read the statistics, and you've got to be careful with statistics because you don't know how true there are, but I've heard there's more dyslexic entrepreneurs than non-dyslexic.
Oh.
And if that's true, that's quite a big figure.
Yeah.
So it just shows kind of it is bringing some sort of advantages if a lot of the millionaires in this country, self-made millionaires, are dyslexic.
It's good for people to know this, definitely.
Absolutely.
Obviously we're based in Newcastle here today. Just talking about Newcastle's tech community, what do you think is Newcastle's real strength as a tech community?
I think it's a lot of it's because of the demographics. It's quite a small place, so there's a high concentration of tech. Therefore, there's a lot of interaction because we're all on each other's doorsteps. It's not like London, which could be a vast space, your East London, West London, or whatever. They're all concentrated around a small area. We do share and develop ideas ourselves. I mean, I think you've just interviewed ScreenReach Paul.
Yeah, great guy.
2 years ago, he's a great guy. We were sitting next to each other, you know, in a room in Middlesbrough on the defence engine with our startups, you know, and now 2 years later we're still helping each other out, and that's important in a community. Actually, that's one of the advantages of San Francisco, I've heard. Don't know much about the place, but it interacts very good. Like developers meet developers, entrepreneurs meet entrepreneurs, and that's something that I think for Britain to be successful needs to recreate that somehow. And Newcastle is the northeast, to be fair. Sunderland, Middlesbrough is recreating that very well, I think.
Yeah, it's really encouraging to see the great things that are going on.
And Gateshead.
And Gateshead, yeah.
Because that's where we're based.
Absolutely, yeah. With a great view of...
With a great view of the Millennium Bridge, yeah.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Speaking about government, Ross, what's your thoughts? Do they have a role to play in helping the tech community?
I think they do. I think they are helping. I don't know if you've just realised they've announced CDIS relief. Mm-hmm. So if somebody invests in a business which somebody is doing, it's a private individual, private wealth, they get 50% tax relief on their earnings of anything they've earned, they've invested. So that's great. That's a good step. I think the main thing the government has to do is that culturally, Europe, and this is a European-wide thing, wealthy individuals don't reinvest as much as what the US do. So if you've got somebody who's got a lot of money in California, he will probably actively seek out investments. And that creates a self-sustaining sort of mechanism that there's a flow of cash and a flow of capital going into the young businesses and the startups. That's not naturally happening in Europe because we haven't got the culture of people getting cash and looking for tech startups. And I think the government has a role to play to try and bridge that gap, whether that is via trying to change the culture, advertising, creating incentives, which they have with the CDIS relief, or plugging it via public ways. And I know the European Investment Bank is doing investments as well. So yeah, there is a role for the government to play, and for me, that is most definitely getting it up to the culture of investment in small technology firms in the same way as what the US does.
We were speaking again off camera about your experience of going to South by Southwest. That'd be great to share with our viewers. How did you find that experience?
I thought it was fantastic. I mean, it's one of the advantages of being in a community is that there was somebody else, another firm within the Newcastle Gateshead area that had been over the year before and found it a good experience, and they'd done quite well, so we decided to go. We entered a competition thinking we'd get nowhere, and that competition was basically to present your business idea in front of Microsoft, Google, about 5-6 venture capitalists and 3 or 4 other people, and out of 80 people we finished third. We're one of the winners. So we got a lot of consultancy and a lot of help based out of Houston now, and it's just a kind of message that, you know, you can, in Britain, you can go over there with a tech firm and go to America and take your technology and still do well. You know, that's, if you want to be a global firm, you have to go to the place where it all happens.
Yeah. I mean, one thing I'd like to share, if possible, is, again, we're speaking off camera about you were doing business in Australia.
Yes.
And to get to South by Southwest, you'd actually flew over from Australia. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's true.
And you'd had 1 hour sleep. So I mean, I think it's important for viewers to understand that
that was a mess.
Yeah, and to understand that this isn't something that you do that's, you know, easy.
Yeah.
That having your own business is,
it's tough.
Real tough. I mean, a lot of people would have just gone to sleep or would have not got the plane, and I think that's an important message to get across to the viewers. I'm sure they know that, but I think that's good to highlight.
Yeah, I think it's when it's your own and it's when it's something you passionately believe in. You will put on an extra, well, I'll say the extra hours, but it was literally extra days.
Yeah.
And I think that's important. I think that's very important, and I think it's important to develop the right culture as well. But I mean, if you look at it from me going from Australia from the UK then to America, is that we've got to be thinking globally. If there's a company based in a tech startup in America, they're not thinking about the US, they're thinking about how they can spread the product globally. And that's where firms in Britain need to start thinking. You can set up a firm, it has been done, Spotify's done it, and you can take it global. And as a culture, I think we're not thinking as globally as what the US people do. I think that's something that needs to be bridged. I mean, it's quite simple, Australia for us, although it's as far away from in the world as you can get. Tight disability legislation, it's not in recession, and culturally it's very similar to us, so there's little to do with our technology. And we've opened up an office there, and it's selling very well.
How have you found that experience, Ross, of dealing internationally?
I think the UKTI is fantastic. I think it's one of the best government departments we've got. I think I've had 2 experiences now with them. One of them being in Australia, one of them being in South by Southwest, and they're absolutely, I couldn't speak highly enough. The support they give you is fantastic, and the introductions and the amount of time they can save you is phenomenal. Brilliant organisation.
Fantastic. Going back to the local tech community, I believe you've initiated the Social Tuesdays. If you'd be kind enough to share what that is with the viewers, that'd be great.
Yeah, it's just something that we do as a team. Is that I think, although you're working very hard, it's important to have fun. You know, we're a young firm. We're not all. I mean, I'm sitting in a shirt now, but you know, we're not a formal company. So every week, every second week, somebody out the team gets to choose to have what they'd like to do. So last time it was go-karting, and next time it is archery. You know, we just go out and enjoy ourselves and not think about work. We just do stuff as a team, and that's important. That's really important.
It's got to be really cool to be working at Recite with that kind of culture existing.
Yeah, I think it's good. I enjoy it.
Yeah, and
hope you do.
Yeah, I guess that's something you must have to defend and look after the culture of the company. I mean, we always hear from the States the culture is so important. So that was that kind of the thinking behind doing that idea.
Well, I mean, if you have got competitors in the tech startup world, you know that over in the US they're working 12 hours a day because that's what their culture's like. It's a very hard working culture. You know, everybody's behind the mission. They're very positive race. They throw themselves into it, and you've got to be no less than that. You know, and I like to think we're not.
Fantastic. Ross, I'd like to thank you very much for your time. It's been a real pleasure.
Yeah, no problem at all.
Cheers.
Thanks very much.